Good morning, student. Can you hear me? Can you see my screen? All right. Okay. All right. So I will start from. Okay. Am I record already? Okay. All right. So remember to scan your attendance. The QR code is here already. So please make sure scan your attendance and kindly take note. This week no tutorial class. We will begin tutorial class on week 3. So meaning to say that even week. This week is even week, meaning to say that your tutorial will begin on week 4. Okay. So Oak Group, your tutorial will begin next week. So please follow your timetable and join the classes by looking back at the tutorial channel. Okay, so follow your group. Okay, so last week I stopped at this slide. Okay, so I hope you still remember. Okay, wait a moment. I want to check my pen first. Okay, I hope you still remember what does it mean by supply is perfectly inelastic. Okay, we have a graph showing that as supply is inelastic and another one is perfectly inelastic. Elastic. Okay, so if you refer back to this slide, okay, so this is what we mean by supply is perfectly inelastic. It's very straight. Okay, so in that sense, you can see the component only have ER because there is no choice. Therefore, there is no opportunity cost given. But when you have two choices, okay, there are two scenarios, whether your supply is inelastic, so you can see the slope is a bit steep, and then the second scenario will be the supply is elastic. So you can see that the slope here is a little bit of gentle. So in that case, these two graphs, you can see that got two component given here. One is opportunity cost, is similar to transfer earning. Then the other one will be the economic rental. Okay, so Kampong today we have to consider the effect of time. Okay, so you can see here in the short run, supply will be inelastic. Okay, and demand will elastic. So producing an equilibrium rent R as the rate. So you can see S is perfectly inelastic, whereby your D is sloped like this. So the equilibrium point will be here. That this one is what we meant by equilibrium rental. Okay, if the demand increases to D1, okay, D to D1, so you can see that what response? R will increase to R1, but your supply here remain fixed, remain perfectly straight in the short run. What does it mean by short run? Short run in economic term meaning to say that at least one factor of production is fixed. Okay, so supply curve is unlikely to be very sensitive to rent level, tends to be very inelastic in the short run. So I give you a scenario. Say, for example, this scenario referring to Utah just moved in. Okay, so before Utah moved in, okay, Sungai Long, you know that because Utah didn't move in, so the student population, staff population actually not so many. So in that case, the property market in Sungai Long not so active. So in that sense, you can see most of the houses in Sungai Long, they actually just buy it for own stay. Okay, so the demand is actually not so big, not so high. Okay, but what if Sungai Long, Utah just move in to Sungai Long? So we can see that there is an increase in terms of student population. So many students will look for what? Accommodation. So in that case, okay, you can see that there is an additional demand. Okay, but in the short run, the time is so too short. The building maybe just start construct. Okay, so the developer foresee that, Utah just move in. So maybe there is a demand. We should kickstart property development. But do you think that today I say, demand is there, start building lah. Then tomorrow the building will be completed. No such thing, ma. Because property development, construction take time to complete. When we say take time to complete, it's not 1 to 3 days. It's about either 2 to 4 years. Then the building only completed in the short run. So that's why in the short run, although we say that the demand increase because Utah just moved in ma. So here Utah just moved in. So we can see that demand increase, rental in Sungai Long also increase. But why supply here remain fixed, didn't respond? Because in the short run, the time is too short for the building to respond, to change the land use, to change the function. Even though we say we want to kickstart new development, but it won't complete overnight. It's not like today we say, the burger demand increase. Then we can bring in more ingredient, more labor. Okay, then either tomorrow or the next day you can supply more burger. That is food. Food could be easy in the short run. But then property has a characteristic that it takes time to construct, it takes time to complete. So the building couldn't just completed within a day. So that's why in the short run, supply is actually very inelastic. Okay. So when the demand increase, you can see that yes, the rental increase because many people fight for accommodation, but supply as a conclusion in the short run just remain fixed regardless of the rental increase. Okay. However, in the long run, in economic term, meaning to say that all factor of production are variable. So in the long run, supply become very elastic. So businesses start to change production method, space utilization, and location. So which means that in the long run, new buildings start to add to Sungai Long. Then the existing building in Sungai Long can also refurbish, redevelop. Okay, so that's why in the in the long run, supply adjusts. Okay, you can see that supply here previously is perfectly inelastic. Will start to slope to S1, become inelastic because the increase in rent improve the profitability of property development activity. So in the long run, perhaps maybe after 1 or 2 years, some of the building can refurbish, upgrade, change land use. So that's why in the long run, the time is sufficient for the supply to adjust, to respond the previous higher rental. So in that case, the supply will slope to S1. Okay? So what happened when you see that supply slope to S1? So S1, this is S1. The supply of land will increase to say S1, settling rent back to R2. Okay, so you can see when the demand increase to D1, supply also shift to S1. So you can see here that is the point. Your rental previously R1, somebody please mute your mic, will fall to R2. Can you see that? Previously is R1, R asterisk to R1. Okay, but when your supply shift to S1, demand increase to D1, you can see that R1 fall to R2, assuming no further change in demand. Okay, so you can see when more supply increase, The theoretically, I say theory, theoretically, based on this figure, you notice that the rental fall. Okay, now I ask you, what do you think? In reality, what you can see here in the property market, do you think that the rental will fall? Do you think that the property price will fall if we keep on supply more property? Can or cannot? Will fall or will not fall? What do you think? You can leave your comment in the chat box. Anyone? No fall. Why? What do you think? Like, let's say right now, COVID, nobody want to buy property. Correct or not? Not to say not to buy, don't want to buy lah. You can see the buying sentiment is actually quite low. Do you think that nowadays the property will fall from 500K to 400K? Unlikely, ma. Okay, so this is theory. Theoretically, you can see that the rental will fall when we supply more property in the market. But practically, okay, in reality, or we say practically, the rental will not fall due to another uniqueness of the property market, which is what we call stickiness of price. Stickiness of price, not sticky rice, stickiness of price. What does it mean by stickiness of price? Is property price will always stick to the highest. It's very, very difficult for property price to fall. Like I mentioned just now, do you think that right now COVID hit the market? So not many people want to buy house. Not many people want to purchase house at this moment. But you won't see the property price will fall for 500K to 400K. So due to the fact that stickiness of price, property price will always stick to the highest. It's very difficult for the property price to fall. Although we can see that demand right now is actually not so good as compared to previous year. Okay. All right. So why we say so? Even if supply was not fixed or perfectly inelastic in the long run, okay, this is another word. I forget I mentioned this one or not before. I mentioned this one before or not. Longevity, meaning to say that long life cycle. This one tie back to what I mentioned before, durable. Okay, and now if you still recall, I told you before that property is very durable. So it stands a very long time, a very long cycle. So that's why the property market, the secondary market is always bigger than the primary market. Okay, because if you still remember, property market divided into primary market and also secondary market. Okay, there is a very big market for secondary market as compared to primary new building. Why we say that secondary market is bigger than the primary is because property is durable. They last longer, they have long life cycle. So in that case, meaning to say that they can accumulate over time. Gather lah. Okay, that's why there is a bigger market in the secondary market as compared to the primary market, due to the fact that property will accumulate. Why they will accumulate? Because they are durable. They can stand very, very long time. That is the nature of the property. Okay, so although we say that, okay, just now we say new property add in. Okay, say for example, when Utah move in, we supply more property at Sungai Long lah. But this new building, new property, only maybe 10% out of total property market 100%. So this 10% is actually a very small portion only, as compared to actually secondary market consist of 90%. Okay, so this 10% is very small proportion. That's why this very small proportion, small percentage is have a negligible influence. Negligible influence meaning to say that it won't affect the price because this 10% is very, very, very small. How can this 10% affect the 90% of the market? So that's why we say that the effect is very minor. It's very negligible. Won't affect lah. Won't affect. So that's why in reality, your rental unlikely fall to R2 due to the reason property will accumulate over time. And the reason is because longevity, durable. So that's why there is always a big market for secondary market rather than the primary. So although we say that we keep on supplying new building, but this new supply is actually, say for example, 10% only. So this 10% is quite small. The portion, the percentage is very small, unable to affect 90% of the property market. So that's why the price unlikely to be fall. Okay, that is a effect of time, short run and long run, how it affect the supply, demand, and also the rental. Okay. Okay, next slide is very important. Land use intensity. Okay, land can be used more intensively through the addition of capital, means more floor space to improve the productivity of land. Okay, intensive meaning to say that you just remember build higher. Build higher. So how are you going to build higher is add more floor space, add more building area. So in that case, that means that add more capital. Okay, capital in this subchapter meaning to say that area, building height, floor space. It's not tools, equipment. Okay, I repeat again. Capital in this subchapter, intensity chapter, meaning to say that add more building area, add more floor space. So eventually it means build higher. Why? Because we want to improve the land productivity. That's why we have to build higher. Okay? But as more capital floor space is added to the fixed amount of land, initially the MRP, marginal revenue product of the land increase. Okay? Because of economy of scale. But the principle of diminishing return meaning to say that eventually it will fall. Okay, so this statement actually meaning to asking you that, do you think that, we say that we can build higher ma? Do you think, is it possible we can build 50 floor, 50 or 100 floor? Because we say we want to improve the land productivity. Then we build 100 floor lah. Why we stop at 20 floor? Why we stop at 30 floor? Why we stop at, let's say, 40 lah? Okay, why not we just build 100 floor? The more we build, we can sell more unit, then we can earn more ma. Okay, so that is why we say that we cannot build 100 floor because of these two principles. Okay, I will come to this explanation later lah. Okay, but first I want to recap you. Do you still remember what is MC, MP, MRP or not? Okay, so say for example, labor. I hire one labor, 2 labor, 3 labor, or 4 labor. Okay, for each labor, let's say I pay the cost, their salary. Okay, so 1 labor equal lah, everybody take 30 ringgit. Okay, so if I hire 1 labor, the total cost will be 30. If I hire 2 labor, then you know lah, simple mathematics. I have to spend 60 ringgit. Okay, MC means marginal cost. Okay, marginal cost, the definition is additional cost incur, additional cost spend, or if you can't remember, you just remember additional cost spend, additional cost that you need to pay when you produce additional unit of, let's say I hire the labor to produce t-shirt, okay? We don't talk about property first. I just want you to remember what is MC, MRP first. So say, for example, I ask the labor to produce t-shirt. So marginal cost meaning to say that additional cost that I need to spend and pay when I ask the labor to produce one additional t-shirt. That is the difference between these two law. 60 minus 30, you get 30. 90 minus 60, you get 30. Okay, so that is the MC. So why MC is constant? Because the cost here is constant, no? So that's why MC here is constant. Okay, output is like, let's say one labor will produce 10 t-shirt here. Okay, 2 is better than 1. 2, they can actually allocate the task more efficiently. Means labor 1 you do this, labor 2 you do that. So they cooperate. Then in that case, you can see 2 labor can produce 24 t-shirt. 3 labor can produce the output 39 t-shirt. Okay, MP is the marginal product, which means the difference between this one, 24 minus 10, 39 minus 24. Okay, price meaning to say that let's say I sell the t-shirt 5 ringgit. One t-shirt 5 ringgit. Okay, so say just now the labor 10 produce 10 t-shirt times 5 become 50 lor. Then when I hire additional labor, they can produce 24. But actually, when we deduct already, the marginal product is 14. So 14 minus 5, I get the revenue is 120. Okay, then MRP is the marginal revenue product, which means additional revenue. Okay, just now additional cost. Marginal revenue product, which means additional revenue that I can get. So additional revenue, you can say obtain, you can say receive. Okay, so the definition is additional revenue received or generated when produce additional t-shirt. So you can see that is the difference between these two. 120, this one, 50, this is the difference. Then this one minus this one is 70. This one minus this one is 75. Okay, so when you plot everything in a graph, okay, I want you to focus only on MC and MRP. Okay, so MRP is the red color. So this is MRP lah. MRP, sorry. Okay, MC is this one, constant. So assuming MC is constant. So you can see the pattern of MRP is at the beginning, up. But up to certain point, start to fall. Okay, why up? Up here is because of economy of scale. If you still recall, this one you learned in year 1 already. Why it fall is because diminishing of return. Okay, so why when we produce more t-shirt, at the beginning, you can see the revenue start to increase. When we hire more and more labor, it's because economy of scale, meaning to say that cost saving when we increase the production. Okay, so we hire more labor, then they can actually cooperate, then they can actually produce the work more efficiently. So which means that we use the resources, labor, land, capital, and so on, more efficiently. Okay, and that is the reason why you can see increase. But up to certain point, it start to fall. When you produce more t-shirt, you can see your revenue start to fall. Why? Because law of diminishing return. So this statement mentioned that in a production process, when you add more labor, okay, they will be at a point. They will be at a point, the output start to decrease. Okay, why start to decrease? Because they cannot grow anymore. They start to hurt the efficiency. Why? Because let's say you have only one machine, but you hire 20 labor. So the 20 labor actually is too many. So it's not efficient. You didn't use the labor more efficient. Just like your assignment, okay? I allocate 7%. But what if I say, the assignment, I allocate 20% to do one assignment. So you can start to notice, out of 20 students, a group, you can notice only 7% do the work only. The rest do nothing because the job scope is too small. But then if I allocate 20 students in one assignment, I can foresee maybe they are half of it may not able to produce anything for that assignment because the efficiency start to fall, cannot grow anymore in this assignment. So that is the reason why it does not mean that the more thing you can produce, the better. Similarly, in property development, it does not mean the higher you build, the better. Okay, so next question is, then at what point I should stop building? At what point I should stop building or stop producing in this production process? That is when these two meet together. MRP met with NC. This is the intersect point. So that is what we call your profit is maximized at this point. Let's say the point is A. So we will see that your profit is maximized at point A when your MRP intersect with MC. So it's actually roughly between 5 to 6. So in that case, we have to stop hiring the labor. Maybe 5 is enough already. Okay, so that is what we say profit is maximized. This is what we call optimum point. Optimum point. Okay, so this is the t-shirt labor example. So come to property development. Okay, okay. I come to this slide first. Okay, why we cannot build 100 floor? Just like I asked you, the more we build, the better, because we can sell more unit. Then we build 100 floor lah. But why? Why we cannot build 100 floor? So look at this slide. These are the reasons why we cannot build 100 floor. These are the factors that will increase the cost. The first is your foundation. When you build higher building, okay, you need a stable, bigger foundation to withstand the additional load, because tall building normally is very high. In that case, the foundation need to be very stable and big in order to sustain, to support the load. So that's why the foundation cost will increase when you build higher. Similarly, your frame, your structural frame, your beam, your column, your slab also need to be special design to withstand the tall building, to support the load. So as compared to normal building, the frame will actually have an additional cost. We need to allocate more cost in the frame and also the foundation. Okay, and vertical transportation here, meaning to say that it refers to your hoist, to your crane. So during the construction, when we want to transport the labor, when we want to transport the material from the bottom to the upper floor, so it takes time. Then we also need more hoist and crane because the building is too high, too tall. So we need additional plant and machinery to operate, to ensure smooth operate of this tall building. So that's why additional costs will be incurred for this vertical transportation. Okay. Engineering services referring to lift. So when you have a very, very tall building, you need to have more lift. You look at Utah. UTA only 10 floor. But the student number, staff number, worker number is so large until you can see during the peak hour, you cannot get the lift, correct or not? If you still remember when the day we used to learn at campus, when we start, especially lunchtime, you always cannot get the lift. So that is mean by the higher the building, you need more lift. So that will actually add in additional cost to a building. So when we produce more lift, which means that our usable area, or what we say rentable area, will reduce, because most of the space you allocate, you need to design for lift, for staircase, for fire door. So in that case, usable area, the area that can be rented out is reduced, which means you cannot rent more, correct or not? Because the usable area will generate profit revenue for the developer. But if we allocate more space for lift, for staircase, to ensure the safety, then which means the usable area will be reduced. We cannot rent out many space. Okay. Fire protection is if you look at it, tall building, normally you also quite scared. What if happen? What if there is a fire happen? So that's why fire protection is very important to ensure the safety. So which means that they need to have more staircase, fire escape door, more landing area, more escape area, so that later on, if there is a fire, we have access to escape from the fire. So here also tie back to this definition. When we provide more on this function, which means the usable area will reduce, we cannot rent out. So it does not mean the higher you build, the better. Okay, and also, as I told you just now, tall building normally have a problem because it's so tall. They had to build stably to ensure to withstand the wind blow. So it will increase the constructional difficulty to build this tall building. So with this reason, it does not mean that we have to build 100 floor, because the higher you build, these are the factor will increase the cost. So you have to remember this factor. Okay, so back to this slide. Okay, so here x-axis is the unit of capital, meaning to say that your floor space. How high is your building? So here y-axis will be your cost and revenue. Okay, say for example, here 0 floor, here 10 floor, here maybe 20 floor. Okay, MC in this context, MC meaning to say that additional cost that you need to pay, that the developer need to pay when they produce one additional unit of capital. Okay, again, marginal cost here meaning to say that additional cost that the developer need to spend, need to pay when they build one more floor higher, or you can say when they build one additional unit of capital, assuming MC is constant. So can you see that here MC is constant, ceteris paribus, because in reality your cost will not be constant. But for this context, they assume that marginal cost is constant, ceteris paribus. Okay, so MRP, again, as I mentioned just now, at the beginning, increase due to economy of scale. So meaning to say that there is a cost saving when you build higher, because you use your labor, you use your worker, you use your machine, and you use the material efficiently. Okay, why the higher we build, the better at the beginning is because, let's say one floor. When you build one floor only, you have to use a similar labor similar architect, similar QS to produce one floor. They charge a similar professional fee. So that is the reason why we have to build 10 floor. All right, so that, like, let's say, for example, when we want to order the material, the supplier tend to give you what? Discount when you buy material in large quantity. So it's actually cheaper when you buy material for 10 floor rather than you buy material for one floor only. So that is a cost saving at the beginning, correct or not? But up to certain point, the production start to fall due to principle of diminishing return. So meaning to say that there is a point your output start to fall. Why after 10 floor your cost, your revenue start to fall is because this is the reason I mentioned just now. Why? Why the higher you build? These are the factors will increase the cost of the building that the developer need to consider. Okay, so that is the reason why after 10 floor, your building, your production start to fall, your revenue start to diminishing. Okay, this one just now I forget to explain now. Okay, MRP is additional revenue that the developer will obtain, will get when the developer produce one additional unit of capital, or you can say produce one floor higher. Okay, so in that case, you can see here they start to fall. Okay, so at what point the developer need to stop building? That is the magic point, not to say magic lah. Happiness point when your MRP intersect with MC. Okay, so this is what we call optimum point. Okay, or we say profit is maximized at point Y when MRP intersect with MC. Here got already. Profit is maximized, the MRP is equal to MC. So which means developer should stop building at 25. Or let's say if the graph meaning to say that OX unit of capital is the optimum capital. But here I put a figure for you so that you understand. So either 25 or either OX is the optimum capital that developer need to build. Okay, then another question is, here start to fall already correct or not? Why we don't stop at 10th floor? Okay, why we have to stop at 25? At this point, you can see that revenue start to fall then we stop at 10th floor lah. Why we stop at 25 floor? Why? This is because here before Y, after Y, you can see before Y, your revenue more than cost. Still more than cost. So that's why still feasible to build. Why we have to say point Y is the maximum? Because beyond point Y, your cost more than your revenue already. Can you see the difference or not? Before Y, you can see here, your revenue more than your cost. So still feasible to build because the developer still getting revenue. Slowly diminishing at this point. After point Y, your cost more than your revenue. So that's why we say that Y is the optimum point. OX is the optimum unit of capital. Why? Because after Y, cost more than revenue, they had to stop building already. Okay, so in that case, you can see that this one just now already mentioned profit is maximized. So OX is the unit of capital that you employ. If the capital less than OX, your revenue more than cost. So you still can build. But then if your capital more than X, here, your cost more than revenue already. So here is not feasible to build. As a conclusion, OX is the optimum capital to combine with the land. Okay. Total revenue is total cost first. Total cost PYXO. PYXO. So is this sheet this one, can you see? Total cost of capital, this one, PYXO. Okay. Total revenue. So revenue is this curve, isn't it? So total revenue is QYXO. So it's like this. Ding. Okay. Then your surplus profit, which means your revenue minus your cost, which means A area minus B area, which means is only this one, which is this one. This is what we call surplus profit when your revenue minus your cost. Okay, I hope you know how to see. This is the surplus when the revenue minus the cost. Okay, so QYP. Okay, one more thing, very, very important. Everybody wake up. Okay, you must know this term. Okay, in this area, can you see land? Okay, one is land, rent. Second, economic rent. Can you see in this area actually consists of two things? One is land rent. Second one is economic rent. This one very, very important. Everybody please wake up and listen carefully. What does it mean? Why this area share two meaning? Land rent means land cost. Okay. Economic rent means surplus profit. Okay. Why these two are the same? Okay. Very important. You have to make this assumption. You have to make this assumption. Very important. What is the assumption? The assumption is assume whatever surplus profit generated, received by the developer will use this surplus profit to pay the land cost. Again, assuming whatever surplus profit received, then the developer will use this surplus profit to pay for the land cost. Ceteris paribus. Assume only. Because in reality, they do not do that. Where got people so stupid? Whatever profit they receive, they use it to pay for the cost. But in this context, we just make an assumption to assume whatever profit that generated, the developer use it to pay for the land cost for the landowner. So that's why this one also share the same area with the land cost, which is land rental. I hope you remember this one. Okay, assuming whatever profit developer receive, they use it to pay the landowner for land cost. So this area also referring to the land cost. Okay, due to the assumption. Okay, so if the land is expensive, a large amount of building may take place before the building costs increase to a level where it pays to acquire more land to provide more accommodation. Okay, what does it mean? Meaning to say that if the land is very expensive, we need to build higher so that to compensate higher land costs. That is the reason why in KL, in city center, why we need to build higher, because the land is very expensive. Why the land is very expensive? Back to the fundamental, because the land is very limited in city center. So because the land is limited, the cost is very high. It is not feasible for the developer to build the house horizontally, meaning to say that build landed. Not to say cannot build landed, can build landed, but the landed have to sell very, very high. If the landed house sell very, very high, nobody want to buy. So that's why they have to build the house vertically upward to build higher, to build high rise, so that they can sell more unit to compensate the land cost. Okay. Right. So in that case, as I told you, if the land is very, very expensive, large amount of building is need to be generated to pay for the land cost. So rather than build 25 floor, like I mentioned just now, in city center, because the land is so expensive, they need to build maybe 35 floor. Okay, maybe they need to build 35 floor. Okay, because when you build 35 floor, your MRP shift outward. Can you see that? Again, in city center, why you need to build higher is because you want to increase the marginal revenue product so that this area become what? Bigger. Correct or not? This area just now I already told you, rather than surplus profit, this area also equivalent to what? Land cost. So that is the reason why when we build higher to 35 floor, your MRP shift outward. In that case, your surplus profit increase. Then the surplus profit that you generated can be used to pay for the land cost, because land cost is very expensive in city center. Okay, based on this graph. And let's say if the price obtained from the goods and services produced for the land fall. So meaning to say that if the land is not so expensive, so rather than build 25 floor, maybe you just need to build 15 floor. So because this area become smaller, but it does not matter, become smaller because the land cost is not so expensive. So build 15 floor should be able to cover the land cost. Okay, so that is a scenario when you build lower, but in some area like Seremban, Sebenye, if you build lower, it does not matter because the land cost not so expensive. Build 15 floors still should be able to cover the land cost. Okay. Another scenario, if let's say the production cost fall, meaning to say that your MC fall. Can you see floor? Okay, why your cost will fall? Due to improvement in construction technology. So meaning to say that you use more advanced technology, you use more advanced machinery, then they can produce more things at the same time. More things and then shorter the time. Or there is a fall in the cost of borrowing, meaning to say that funding cost reduce. Funding cost reduce, meaning to say that the developer no need to pay so high funding cost. So in that case, your cost will reduce. So you can see that in that case, your cost will reduce to this area. At the beginning is this area. Okay, but if we improve the construction technology, say like I mentioned, you use more advanced machinery, or you use more advanced AI or robot in your production, or there is a fall of the cost of borrowing capital, funding cost, then actually your cost can be lower. Okay, in that case, you can see your surplus will become what? Bigger, lor. Okay. Okay, conclusion. Okay, these are the two scenarios. Intensive, as I told you just now, build higher. The opposite word of the intensive means extensive. Extensive meaning to say that no need to build so high. Okay, A, intensive, B, extensive. Now I want to ask you, question, which one refer to city center? Which one refer to suburban? Anyone? Can you leave the comment in the chat box? A is refer to which area? City central or suburban? City Central or suburban? Hey, nobody answer me. Okay, Charles say A refer to City Central. Okay, anyone? Okay. Okay. Since I still got time, I want to ask question. I want to call someone. Discharge. Okay. Who is the lucky star? How many students? 178. Okay. Can we have some of the name? Carmen. Carmen, are you there? Carmen. Carmen Chong Jia Wen. Carmen. Carmen. Oh, Carmen. Yes, Carmen. Can you on your mic? Are you convenient? I want to ask you, why we say that A is city central? Why leh? Why we cannot say B is city central? Very simple question, Carmen. Carmen, why A is city central? Why B is suburban? Can you answer or not, Carmen? City. Carmen, can or not? Can you answer why A is city? Why B is suburban? Carmen?
Because you say intensive is mean build higher.
So why city center need to build higher?
Because limited.
Why limited? What limited? What is limited?
The floor space.
Oh, the land is
The
limited.
land, yeah.
Okay, then why you need to build higher?
Because land limited so expensive.
Okay, then if you look at these two figures, what is the difference? Carmen. What are the difference you can observe?
The land cost.
Okay, land cost is different. And then what else? Hello? Okay, it's okay lah, Lemon. I know you try your best already. Okay, my answer, the answer that I want is yes, we say that in city central the land is expensive, land is limited, so we need to build higher. Why we need to build higher is because we want to maximize this area. Can you see that this area or not? What is this area? Can you type in the chat box? Let me know. So that I can know that you know what am I talking. Why they need, this is what area? Why they need to maximize this area? Anyone of you know or not? Can you see the difference? This difference is, yes, this is land cost. Correct or not? Yes. Okay, very good. So why they need to build higher? You have to listen carefully the explanation. Why they need to build higher is because they have to maximize the surplus profit. Wow, very good. Gong Chi Chong. Yes. Chui also very good. Okay. They have to maximize the surplus profit in order to cover the expensive land cost. That is the reason why they had to build higher. I know build higher is because land is expensive, limited, and this and that. But the core reason is they want to maximize the surplus profit generated so that the profit is sufficient enough to pay the expensive land cost. On the other hand, suburban, okay, why build 10 floor is enough? Because the land is very plenty, is plenty resources in suburban like Semenyih. So build 10 floor actually sufficient enough to cover the land cost. So that is a reason why we want to build higher in city center, but we no need to build so high in suburban. Okay, very good. All right, time is good. Right now, before we proceed to land location and land use, we will have a break lah. 10 minutes lah. Correct or not? Most of you requested. Okay, come back at 9:08. Okay lah, then no, Sing Ru say. Okay, remember to scan your attendance class you have to monitor your attendance okay? So I will see you later. Okay, time's up. I will continue this subchapter called location and land use. Okay, another characteristic of property is immobile. Okay, something that you have to remember. Land is immobile. Immobile meaning to say that fixed, cannot be moved. Okay, another characteristic of land is there forever. It cannot be moved. So that's why the location will affect the land use and also profit making potential. So meaning to say that potential. So meaning to say that you will notice that some of the business, like let's say retail, residential, office, industrial, they will choose their location after evaluate their profit making potential. Profit making potential meaning to say that they will evaluate the revenue generated and also the cost incurred. Then only they will choose which location is best for this business due to the fact that land is actually fixed. It cannot be moved. Like let's say normally people tend to buy the house near public transport. But let's say if the government cancel the mega infrastructure, mega project, okay, then you will foresee that the property price in that area will not be so attractive anymore as compared to property with MRT. So due to the fact that land is fixed, it cannot be moved. So if let's say after some time, government say want to build a graveyard next to that property, but you already purchased the house. So how? Okay, you may say that I want to sell, but not to say that very easy to sell when the property near to graveyard. So that's why property, this characteristic cannot be moved is very important to consider because the location will affect the land use and it also the profit making potential. So that is a thing that we have to consider also how location affect the land use. Land, where the land close to a market. Okay, market here is not supermarket. It's referred to city center. Okay, land close to a market or a supply of labor will yield the same output as land that is further away from city center but would incur lower labor and capital costs due to accessibility advantages. Okay, this one got two scenarios. City center, second one, suburban. Okay, city center, you know that is the best location. Okay, why best location? Because very good accessibility. Access to what? Because access to labor, and then most of the people will focus their business in city center. Okay, because it linked to major highway, there are many public transportation, and it also consists of many building amenity. The customer flow also are quite high in city center. That we means by good accessibility. But in city center, good accessibility, there is a problem that the land cost is expensive. Land cost expensive. Rental in that case also very expensive. But no choice because good accessibility, the transport cost is lower. Okay. On the other hand, suburban, say for example, Seremban, Semenyih is very far from city center. So in that case, the accessibility will be not so good. So poor accessibility. Okay, in that case, the transport cost will be higher. So meaning to say that if you can see most of the people nowadays, they will buy house at Semenyih, Seremban. But there is a problem is if they work at PJ, work at KL, they had to drive very far from Semenyih to KL. So in that sense, the transportation cost tend to be higher. No choice, they stay so far. But another good thing is land, because the land cost is very cheap. It's very, not to say very high. So that's why the property price, the rental there also quite low. Can you see one up, one down or not? Okay, city central, the land cost is very high. But then because it's a central place, so you no need to pay so high transport costs. So very convenient, no? Because let's say you don't choose, if you stay at KL, you work at KL, you can actually take public transport. So in that case, you spend lower transportation costs. But on the other hand, if you choose to stay at suburban, yeah, you can buy landed and the rental tend to be cheaper, the cost tend to be cheaper, but no choice that you have to pay higher transportation costs. The petrol, the toll also should be quite high. So can you see one up, one down or not? That is the fundamental of economic. You cannot have two things at the same time. You have to choose one thing. Either you choose pay lower transportation costs, you pay higher rental. Or if you choose to pay lower rental in suburban, then you have to choose higher transportation costs. That is what we mean by trade-off. You cannot have two things at the same time. You have to make a choice, either choose one of it. After evaluate which one is the best for you. Okay, so that is mean by land close to city center will use the same output when the land further away, because city center one up, one down. Suburban also the same, one up, one down. So you have to choose. Do you depends on accessibility or not? Okay. Assuming the price of the output remain the same regardless of where it was produced, the utility value of the prime site is greater, and this value is reflected in rent. Utility value meaning to say that land value or land cost of the prime site meaning to say that very good location. Good location here means, as I told you just now, good accessibility, very convenient, okay, near to public transport, labor availability, and so on. So normally this good area, prime site, the rent also tend to be higher. So when the rental higher, the land value also higher. So there is a positive relationship between these two, the land value and also the rental. Okay. All right. Look at this slide. Okay, quick first. Okay. This one is the total revenue generated. Assuming total revenue is constant, ceteris paribus, because in reality, your revenue will not be same. But when we deal with the graph economy with two X and Y, we can always assume that total revenue received is constant, ceteris paribus. Okay, this one is the total cost including transportation cost. So you can see the total cost increase. Okay, x-axis is the distance from market. Market here, as I told you, O is city central, market location. So here means distance, no? Okay, then your y-axis is the revenue and the cost relationship. So you can see that your total cost increase, okay, when the distance further away from city center. Again, transportation cost increase. Can you see that? Increase when the distance further away from city center. Okay, so this is O, let's say here A lah. This one point I say B lah. O, A, B, Y, okay. O, A, B, Y is your total cost, the area lah, okay. Then O, R, is your total revenue. Okay, ORBY is your total revenue. This box, this box. Then the trapezium is your total cost. Okay, then this area, can you see difference between revenue and cost, which means ARB is your surplus profit, which means revenue minus your cost. Okay, can you see this area? This area. This area is what we call surplus profit, which means the differences revenue minus the cost. Okay, so you can see that for a, okay, look at this one. For a single land use, transport cost will increase. So increase when the distance from the central market increases. So meaning to say that if you stay at Sepang, okay, here maybe Cheras, here KLCC area. So you can see that if you choose to stay at Sepang, then you have to pay very high transportation costs in order to get access to KLCC as compared to Cheras. Okay? All right. The rent decreases as the distance to market increases. So you can see, okay, this yellow color, the surplus profit is this area, isn't it? Your surplus profit start to diminishing, become smaller and smaller until this point. Can you see that? This one, although we say is surplus profit, this area, but your surplus profit is you get the largest at city center, and getting smaller and smaller until this point onward, sudah tak ada, no more already. Can you see that? So that is the meaning why the rent decreases, the surplus profit decreases when the distance from the market increases. So this is what we call optimum point. Okay, at point Cheras, okay, your cost more than revenue. Beyond Cheras, the cost more than revenue already. So meaning to say that this land use only sustain from KLCC until Cheras. After Cheras, this land use will not be profitable anymore because your cost more than revenue. Before Cheras, within this area, you can see that your revenue still more than cost, still feasible. So that's why for this land use, for this single land use is feasible between KLCC until Cheras. From Cheras onward, this land use will not be profitable anymore. Why? Because your cost more than your revenue. So that is what we mean by optimum point when TR intersect with TC, TC intersect with DR. Okay? Beyond distance Y, this use is no longer profitable. Why? Because the cost more than the revenue. That's what I explained just now. Okay, so you can see that the distant land will suffer greater diminishing return, meaning to say that the further away from city center, the land will have lesser return. Okay, so I want you to remember this area is the surplus profit, which means the differences between the revenue and cost. Okay, say for example, just now only one land use, just now I only show you one land use, correct or not? So this yellow color shaded one is the surplus profit earned. Okay, what if now I introduce you another land use called B? Another one originally is A, but if let's say I introduce you another land use B with different rate of transportation costs. A, you can see, B, you can see the slope is very steep. A, the slope is quite gentle lah, as compared to B. B1 more stiff. So you can see the transportation cost increase very fast when the distance further away. Okay, but then A, the slope a little bit of gentle, so the transportation cost didn't increase so fast. Okay, so assuming revenue is the same from both products, land use B has the greatest surplus available to bid as rent. BR more than AR. So now I want you to focus this area only. Look at this area. Don't look at this area. Look at this area first. OX. So you can see between OX, B got more surplus. Can you see? Correct or not? Bigger ma. A lesser surplus. Correct or not? So that is mean by between KLCC and let's say Cheras, land use B obtain more surplus as compared to land use A. Correct or not? Okay, because the B got more surplus, bigger area. So that is mean by B has the greatest surplus available. However, land use B is able to outbid A, but only up to distance X, at which because the A production costs do not rise so steeply, is able to outbid B. Okay, now I want you to focus the distance X to Y. Let's say Y is Kajang. Okay, between distance Y, X and Y, Cheras and Kajang, you can see B will stop at this point. Correct or not? In between Cheras and Kajang. But then the A will last until Kajang. Okay, here Cheras. So you can see, although at the beginning, B got more surplus, got more profit. But then for this land use B only able to sustain between Cheras and Kajang, here only. But land use A, although do not have so many surplus at the beginning, but you can see the transportation cost didn't rise so steeply. That's why the land use A can sustain until Kajang. Okay, so this is a scenario of when we introduce A, B with different rate of transport cost. One is more gentle, one is more stiff, so you can see that their optimum location will be different. B between Kajang and Cheras, but then A will be located at Kajang, will be stopped at Kajang. Okay, so what if now I introduce not only AB, but also CD. Okay, so now I have land use A, B, C, D with different rate of transport cost. So one is very stiff, C and D very gentle. Okay, when we rotate, when we rotate this one into 180 degree, so when you rotate already, just now like this correct or not? Like this, correct or not? So when we rotate 180 degree, your line will slope like this. Ding, 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 ding. Correct or not? Just now up correct or not? So when we rotate 180 degree, your line will slope downward until you will see it form a curve like this, which is the next slide. This is what we call market rent. Okay, this is what we call, this purple curve is what we call market rental. Okay, your market rental slope downward. Can you see? Like this, slope downward. Why slope downward? Because the further away from city center, here Sepang, the further away from city center, your rental start to fall. So that's why at Sepang, your rental maybe only 500. But if you at KLCC, your rental could be 2,000. Okay, again, why we want to, not why I want to rotate. The theory is why the economists want to rotate the graph is they want to formulate this purple curve, MN, which is what we call market rental. Okay, market rental slope downward. Why slope downward? Because the further away from city center, you can observe that the rental start to fall. The rental start to fall. So that is the reason why Sepang, the rental is cheaper. But if you choose, like, let's say city center or Bangsar, the rental very high. So in that case, you can see this graph will form a different color zoning to illustrate the relationship between location, land use, rental. Okay, you can see yellow color, this what color? Blue color, red color, green color. So this is what we call land use and big rent theory to illustrate the relationship between location, land use, rental. Okay, so now I ask you, yellow color normally for what kind of business? Retail, office, or industrial? What do you think? For yellow color, this zone normally for what business? Retail, office, or industrial? What do you think, students? Banking. All right, correct also. So normally X yellow and also blue color will suitable for retail and office. Okay, X, Y, Y and Z normally suitable for industrial or residential. So this one illustrates that some land use, like let's say retail, office, that depends on accessibility. So that's why they will choose to locate their business in this area. All right, okay. So meaning to say that, okay, this one, just now we mentioned, right? This one, this is the curve that generated from just now. Now we have another curve called big rent curve. Okay, wait, I'll let everything come out first. Okay, this one called big rent curve. Don't ask me why this one is straight line and we call it curve. The term is called indifference curve. So this curve, big rent curve, is what we call budget line. Okay, this curve is called budget line. Every business will have their own budget line. Retail, office, industrial will have their own budget line. And of course, some of the businesses will endeavor to locate their big rent curve to the nearest origin. So meaning to say that the nearest the line to the origin, to the CBD, the profit will increase. But it depends. It depends on the businesses. Let's say, okay, just now I asked you, for retail, let's say okay, let's say Uniqlo. You know Uniqlo, right? Uniqlo. Okay, then another one is factory, warehouse, Uniqlo warehouse. This one is the Uniqlo shop to sell the clothes. Then Uniqlo also got their own warehouse and factory to produce the clothes. Okay, so for retail, Uniqlo normally you can see they will choose to locate it at city center. Okay, why? Because good accessibility they can most of the customer focus on city center. That is a central place whereby most of the people will gather. Okay, so that's why Uniqlo depends on this customer flow, labor availability. So they will choose to locate their business in city center. But just like I told you already, when you choose to locate it at city center, you have to pay higher rental. But on the other hand, your transport cost will be lower. Then for factory, warehouse, they tend to locate it at, let's say, Rawang, suburban. Why factory, warehouse, they choose to locate it at Rawang? Because they need a bigger place, bigger space to put their plant, to put their machine. So that's why this kind of business are not suitable to locate at city center. If they want to locate at city center, they have to put higher rental, isn't it? So that's why this business surrender. Surrender meaning to say that give up, don't want to put their business in city center. They will choose to locate at Rawang. Why? Because Rawang lower rental, cheaper. But I told you before that give and take, the transport cost will be higher. But then these two businesses they're actually located at the correct location. Okay, although Uniqlo shop, they're located at city center, they need to pay higher rental, lower transportation costs, but they still earn profit. They still generated profit. And then for factory warehouse, although they're located at suburban, they pay lower rental, they pay higher cost, but they still earn profit. So in that sense, it does not mean city center is always the best location for all businesses. Every business will have their own budget line. Budget line meaning to say that they need to evaluate revenue generated and also the cost incurred, then to determine the profit. After that, they will choose their location, whether suburban, whether city center. Okay, the correct location of the businesses will be the profit is greatest. Again, the conclusion the correct location for businesses lies whereby the profit is greatest. So that's why factory, warehouse, they choose to locate their business as suburban because they can obtain the profit greatest as compared located at city center. Because if they choose to locate it at city center, the profit generated cannot cover the cost. So that is the reason why we say that city center is not always the best location for all businesses. All businesses will need to evaluate their budget. How to evaluate their budget? They have to determine how much revenue received, how much cost to spend, then they will determine the profit level to choose the correct location. Okay, so it does not mean the nearest to the city center is the best for all businesses. Okay, equilibrium location will be this point, whereby the curve touch the tangent of the market rental. Can you see here? When this big rent curve just touch the tangent of this big rent curve, this is what we call happiness point, equilibrium point, whereby the location is equal to the rental. Same lah. That is what we call equilibrium distance x, whereby the location is similar, is trade off with the rental. Okay, so you can see here, line join the equilibrium location where the access, this is the access location, and the rental are trade off against each other. So it indicates that maximum rental that can be paid at different location and still enable the business to earn normal profit. So meaning to say that although factory located very further away, but they need the space, that need the bigger area so that they can earn more profit to cover. But because city center, the land is very, very limited. If they rent the shop lot to do their factory, to put their plant and machinery, they cannot cover the cost. The profit generated cannot cover the cost. That's why, as I told you, they surrender to the retail. They will further away choose the business to suburban. Okay? All right. In that case, summary, most of the businesses, say for example, retailer particular will depend on central location, where the market is located, which means to say that the city center accessibility is maximized, meaning to say that very convenient, and transportation costs are minimized because the public transport is very convenient. If located MRT, LRT, and even monorail. So the availability of the such size is very limited. Therefore, supply is perfectly inelastic. So this area normally will belong to retail. Okay. Then further away will be office. Okay. Office occupier outbid industrial occupier. So meaning to say that office will not to say all lah, some of the office will choose to further away from city center. Okay. And last but not least will be industrial. Greater accessibility will lead to higher demand, which in turn cause the rent to rise and land use intensity to increase. So meaning to say that because the factory, the warehouse, they need a bigger place. So that's why it's not so feasible for them to locate it at city center. Okay, so that is the concept. For more reading, you can actually read this book as I suggest to you before to further understand how location will influence land use. Okay. All right. So next, we're going to talk about type and density of development. Okay. When the site has scarcity value, meaning to say that very limited, it may be worthwhile to go on applying capital beyond this maximum rather than pay extra cost of land required for extending the site. Summary, okay, for you to understand this statement, meaning to say that if the land is very expensive, it will be better to build vertically rather than horizontally. Because if you choose to build horizontally, you need to get more land, and the land is very expensive. So that's why most of developers will choose to build outward vertically to build higher so that they can sell more unit. Okay. However, as I told you before, it does not mean that the land is so expensive, then we build 100 floor lah. No, the process is always subject to what I told you just now, principle of diminishing return, which means the higher we build, there are certain factors will influence, will increase the cost. Say, for example, you need to have more lift, bigger foundation, and also the construction is actually quite difficult. All right. Okay, so this one, this MC, if you look at the previous slide, is actually similar. Just that this one in this slide is not constant. Previously, we assume MC is constant. If you look back the previous slide, we assume MC is constant. But then I told you before, in reality, your cost will not constant. So in this slide, you can see MC slope downward first. Then after certain point, your cost start to increase. Okay, so here at lower density level, there are economic scale to be reaped by adding more floor space so that cost per unit of floor space initially fall. So meaning to say that, okay, 10, 20, 30. Okay, so at the beginning, when you build 0 to 10 floor, your cost start to drop. Your cost start to fall because build 1 floor, build additional 1 floor is better than you build nothing. So that's why the cost start to fall when you build higher. So just remember, just now I mentioned that the higher you build, when you order your material in large quantity, you can get discount. So that's why your cost actually fall at the beginning. But then up to certain point, okay, up to certain point, here, it becomes progressively more expensive to add more floor space to a fixed amount of land. So meaning to say that at certain point, due to the principle of diminishing return, so your output start to fall, your cost start to increase. So which I already explained very detailed just now. What are the factors will make your cost to fall, to increase? Okay. And another one is the revenue, MR. The curve is sloped downward. Can you see? Slope downward. So here 0, 10, 15, 20. Due to principle of diminishing returns, means that user of the property will obtain less and less utility. Okay, so meaning to say that the higher you build, the less floor space you can rent out. So that's why you can see the most profitable space will be at ground floor. So you can see most of the mixed use they will put retail at the ground floor, because at the ground floor they can build more space, okay, then they can rent out more. As compared to higher floor, normally they build residential, because they need to have some circulation area for the residents. So that's why the higher you build, the person will obtain less and less utility as compared to the ground floor. So that's why the most profitable area will be located at ground floor as compared to the previous floor. Okay, so which one is the happiness point? As I told you before, this is the one when the MR intersect with MC. Okay, that is the happiness point. The optimum amount of floor space will be OX. So say for example 20 floor. So the developer need to stop building at 20 floor, because after 20 floor, your cost more than your revenue already. It's not feasible to continue to build. Okay, so this is what we say. This is the area PQY. Okay, this area bounded by PQY, price developer will pay for the land cost. So this is what we say, surplus profit. Okay, as I told you before, you have to make a very important assumption. Assuming whatever profit that you have, you use it to pay the landowner for the land cost. So that is the meaning why they say PQY is the price the developer would pay for the site, which means the land cost, which is the capital value of the site, which is the land value. So because of the assumption, assuming whatever profit that the developer receive, they're so stupid, they use it to pay the landowner for the land cost. So this area got two meaning, surplus profit and also the land cost. Okay. And let's say if the property value increase, meaning to say that if the demand for the property increase, so many people demand for house, say for example in Sungai Long when the Utah move in, so you can see that MR will increase to MR1. Okay, in that case, instead of building 15 floor, maybe can build 20 floor to build higher. Okay, so you can see the surplus profit here also will become bigger, larger. Okay, and increase the site value Q1, Y1P. So as a summary, instead of building 15 floor, if the property demand increase, the developer will choose to build higher, 20 floor. So in that case, the MR will increase, and your site value, your surplus profit also will increase, theoretically based on this graph. Okay. All right. So just in time. Okay, before I proceed to next one, I will have let's have a 10 minutes break lah. Okay, if you have any question, feel free to ask me. Okay, see you all back at 10 o'clock. Okay, so after the class, please stay for a while because I will brief you the assignment. Okay, see you all later. All right. Let's move on to the last last sub-chapter. Okay, the last sub-chapter of this economy topic is talking about the timing of redevelopment. Okay, the timing of redevelopment meaning to say that there is additional characteristic of land, which mean the highest, okay, the highest and best use of land is constantly changing. Okay, the highest and best use of land is constantly changing. So meaning to say that, say for example, originally the land use is agriculture. Okay, that is the original land use. The demand for agriculture land for that particular location will decrease. Why decrease? Because another more profitable, more competing land use will increase. So it does not mean that if the land use is agriculture, we have to use it for planting forever. Because the land has another characteristics whereby the highest and best use of the land use is always changed. It depends on situation. It depends on the economic context and also location. So although originally the land use is agriculture, but as time goes along, we notice that there is another more profitable land use is increasing. Say for example, mixed use or residential. So in other words, we need to say that we had to surrender the old use, change to more profitable use. Okay, so that is means by we need to investigate when is the best timing we have to do that. When is the best timing we have to redevelop, we have to change the land use. Okay, the relationship between existing use, meaning to say that the current land use or the original land use, and the development value, meaning to say that the site value, the land value is actually will vary over time. That is what I meant just now. The highest best use of a piece of land is constantly changing over the time due to the fact that the current land use and the site value will always change. Okay? Condition. So when is the best timing we have to do redevelopment? Two conditions for you to guide you for redevelopment. The first one is the expected development value, which means all the GDP must exceed the development cost, including the price of the land and the profit. Okay, so we need, which means to say that whatever revenue that you generated must more than the cost that you spend plus the profit earned. Okay, then the second scenario is the development site value must be at least the same as existing use value. So meaning to say that the land use, the new use of the piece of land should be more than or equivalent to existing use value. Okay, so these are the two conditions for us to know that when is the best timing for redevelopment. Okay, the residual site value for development purposes will be the highest price which the most efficient developer would be willing to pay. That is referring to the condition number one. Okay, so condition number one is later on during your week 7, you are going to learn how to calculate the residual value. Residual value. Okay, so from residual value, you are going to know the maximum land cost that you need to pay for the landowner. So that is also your assignment. Your assignment is asking about residual value. You have to perform residual value to determine what is the land cost that you are going to pay for that piece of land in the assignment. Okay? To investigate the relationship between existing use, development use of site in more detail, we should consider the economic life of a building. Okay, how to consider economic life of a building? Okay, so for this one, I think you refer to the next slide will be much more easier lah. Okay, so x-axis is the time, year. Y-axis is the capital value. Okay, let's say building space, office space was the most profitable use at time equals to 0. So which means that your building is the newest, will have a high value when the time equals to 0. Because just completed correct or not? So the building look very new. Of course, the highest value will be at T equals to 0. Okay, B here meaning to say that building value. So you can see 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. So you can see as time goes along, your building value start to depreciate, start to fall. B show the capital value of the office building fall over time because of depreciation take hold, maintenance cost increase relative to rental value, and a better standard of accommodation is expected. Okay, what are the reasons make your building value fall? First is because your building will depreciate. It will depreciate faster if you didn't maintain your building very well. So that's why your building value start to fall. And as time goes along, people demand will change. They will demand a better accommodation. So they will leave the current property and then move on to a better property, isn't it? So that's why your building value will fall if you didn't maintain your building very well. Okay. On the other hand, S here referring to site value, which means your land value. Okay, S shows the capital value of the clear site, assuming no change in supply and demand, and the cost remain constant. Okay, in this context, in this graph, we assume that site value is constant, ceteris paribus. But in reality, your site value will increase. But in this context, in this graph, assuming site value remain constant. Okay, ceteris paribus. Then this is the point that you need to be take into consideration. Okay, not economical viable to redevelop the site until T equals to L. L meaning to say that economic life of a building. Okay, before L, say for example here 10 before 10 years, your building value still more than site value. So no need redevelop. Tak payah, no need. However, 10 years onward, after 10 years, you can see your site value start to more than exceeded your building value. Here, site value more than building value. So this is the timing. This is the time for redevelop, which means after 10 years. Before 10 years, still not feasible yet because your building value still more than your site value. So economic life of a building, which means that when your site value more than your building value, that is the timing for redevelopment. Okay? And there is a scenario whereby S will increase to X1 due to infrastructure improvement. This one very, very important. You have to remember that infrastructure improvement meaning to say that improvement in terms of infrastructure, highway, public transport. Okay, public transport, road linkage. So which means that when that location, when you see got MRT, got major highway, they improve the road condition and linkage, the land value will increase. That is the scenario happened in Seremban and Semenyih. Previous year, 10 years or 20 years ago, the land value actually not so high because the infrastructure very bad. It's very difficult from Semenyih move to KL. You have to drive to KL. There is no public transport for you. Not like so convenient right now. You can take MRT from Kajang to KL. But when the government and also the developer improve the site infrastructure by promoting more major highway, by providing more public transport, the land value in Semenyih start to increase. So you can see there are more and more development in Semenyih, Seremban, and Sepang, very far away from city center already. Okay, and their site value, their land value start to increase because of the infrastructure improvement. Why all this will cause the land value increase? Because convenient. Okay, improve the convenience already. So you can access better to city center by taking MRT, by taking LRT, or even the road highway also become better. You got major highway, maybe 30 minutes you can reach KL as compared to many years ago. Okay, so that is the meaning by as site value will increase when the infrastructure improvement. Okay. On the other hand, when the site value increase, S increase to X1, you can see that this will reduce the economic life of the building. Previously 10 years, but now shortens to 5 years already. So as I told you just now, when there is a better improvement in terms of infrastructure, you can see there are more and more development focused on suburban like Semenyih, Seremban, Sepang. So eventually, this means that it starts to reduce the economic life of the building due to the infrastructure improvement. From originally 10 years, but when there is a better infrastructure improvement, it shortens the economic life of the building to 5 years, as you can see in this graph. Okay. Another scenario is your building value. Okay, your building value will increase due to refurbishment, conversion to a more valuable use, meaning to say that if you maintain your building very well, say for example, every year you do the painting, you check the services, plumbing, equipment, whether okay or not. You try to maintain your building in a good shape. So in that sense, your building value will increase, correct or not? So as a result, this will increase the economic life of the building. Previously, 10 years out, we foresee. But if you maintain your building by constantly painting lah, checking lah, or do renovation lah after 10 years then your building life will increase to 15. That is means by building value will increase when there is a better maintenance and also refurbishment. Okay. And this model, this relationship S1, B1 can use to explain urban structure. So urban structure meaning to say that we can use this graph to illustrate the relationship in different locations. First location that we are going to investigate is city center. Okay, in the central area, city center, building fall into disrepair as owner anticipate redevelopment. So this theory stated that in city center, the owner will not maintain the building because the owner anticipate there is a fast redevelopment. So that's why they don't want to maintain the building. So in city center, the scenario is B. Didn't maintain If you maintain, it's B1 But in city center, they anticipate that the the redevelopment is very strong. So that's why they don't want to maintain the building. So it's scenario B, okay? And the same time, site value may increase S to S1. So in city center, we know that that is a central point the government, the developer will focus. So when there is an improvement in terms of infrastructure, the first thing they will start from where? City center first. So in that case, site value is S1. Okay, B S1. So you can see originally 10 years are here. B, okay, S1 will be this point. Okay, this is B. This is S1. So you can see in that case, in city center, the economic life normally is shortened, become 5 years, due to the fact that building not maintained and also the site value increased. B, S1, so 10 years shorter than 5 years. The economic life reduced. Okay. On the other hand, further out from center of the built environment, say for example, Cheras, not city center, further away a bit. Okay, it's characterized by lots of conversion and refurbishment, increasing the building value B to B1. So this scenario in Cheras, they foresee that the building will be well maintained as compared to city center. So that will be the scenario of B1 because people will maintain. Okay? And usually the infrastructure not so well as compared to city center. So that's why rather than S1, it's S. So it's S. So which means it's this one. So initially 10 years B1 S, this one. Okay. This is B1, this is S. So this is the intersection. So normally in Cheras, further away from the center, the economic life normally will be lengthened a bit, longer a bit, maybe here 15. So here, the economic life normally tends to 15 years, theoretically. Okay, so last but not least will be suburban, say for example, Seremban. Seremban, of course, we know that people tend to well maintain the building. Okay, so it's B1. So it's B1. And because the land actually is very plenty in that location. So normally right now you can see, especially at the moment right now, these few years, they start to focus on outskirts. So you can see the development are very, very strong in Seremban, Rawang, even further away from Rawang, even they actually focus on Kuala Selangor, Sekinchan. Okay, so you can see that they start to promote development in outskirts by upgrading the infrastructure improvement. So you can see there are more MRT, ECRL, high-speed rail, okay, actually focus on all these outskirts. So in that case, the site value will be S1, very strong. Okay, so it's B1 and S1 here. This is the intersection point. So 10 years reduced to maybe 8 years. So 10 years reduced to 8 years. So that is the relationship between B, the building value, site value, and the economic life that you can observe in different locations, theoretically based on the graph. But in reality, as you can see in this article that actually uploaded to Microsoft Teams, you can observe that Taman Mega anticipate new vitality with redevelopment. Taman Mega is a very mature neighborhood. It's an established area. So this area actually previously is a food court, badminton court. It's very famous food court and badminton court. But a few years ago, they actually want to demolish everything, torn down everything for redevelopment to a mixed-use residential. Okay, why they want to choose Taman Mega? As I mentioned just now, mature neighborhood. What does it mean by matured? Matured meaning to say that, as you can see based on this picture, this area actually got many amenity and facility, such as wet market, shop, bank lah, restaurant and cafe. Okay, so actually quite established and convenient. And most importantly, this area got one LRT station. And this LRT station, LRT Kelana Jaya, is connected to MRT and also monorail. So that's why this area is the connectivity is very good. It also linked to major highway like LTP and KVE. So the transportation network, the road and highway is actually quite convenient. So that's why the developer choose to tone down everything to redevelop a mixed-use development. So that's why you can see when an area is very matured in terms of many facility, amenity, transportation, and also the road network is very good, it will actually fasten the redevelopment. So not necessarily based on the theory that you have to wait until the economy life end and then B1 and S1. Not necessary. It depends on how matured, how profitable of this area, so that it will actually accelerate the redevelopment process. Okay. Okay. So this one is wait let me see okay. The businessmen say that they want to demolish this and redevelop 49-year-old Plaza Batai in Damansara Heights, KL. So they actually want to demolish everything, and they want to turn it into a service apartment. Okay, so what the CEO say? This area, Damansara Heights, is a blue chip address. Blue chip address meaning to say that prime location, very, very good location. You cannot go wrong. Of course, now we can see that it's oversupplied, but this won't be forever. COVID or not, our economy will bounce back one day later. Okay, and the recovery will be by next 2 years lah. So the move by the developer to get permission will be in maybe 2023. So meaning to say that they already started to plan to turn down everything. So you can see from the picture, the shop lot actually look quite new, right or not? But the product, this location is very good. Okay, so that's why they start to want to redevelop the whole thing. They foresee that service apartment will be better used as compared to shop lot. Okay, so right now you might see that there are more and more redevelopment coming up, which I'm going to share in the coming weeks with you. Okay, and when we say about redevelopment, there are some factors will affect, will delay the timing of redevelopment. The first one is landowner inertia. Landowner inertia meaning to say that, say for example, Jasper got a piece of land at Sarawak. So I'm the developer. I aim that piece of land. Then I ask Jasper, do you want to sell to me or not? Then Jasper will think, that piece of land actually I grow up from there. I have my family, then I married, then I got kids, and until now. So actually, that is a memory, that is a sentimental. Jasper feel that I don't think I want to sell to you because I feel that I have too many memory in that piece of land. So now I ask you if you are the developer, what should you do to overcome this so-called landowner inertia memory? What should you do to make Jasper sell that piece of land to me? Any one of you know or not? Can you give some feedback? Jasper, give more money. Yes, correct. As actually steal the money lah. Got money then can talk, correct or not? So how am I going to overturn Jasper memory? Give more money, correct or not? The more money, bribe him. Sufficient enough to overcome, to break down this memory. Then that Jasper will sell that piece of land to me. But it's still very subjective lah. It depends on the landowner whether they want or don't want to sell to you, because they got the right. So that's why, what are the methods that you can overturn? Okay, we can actually give sufficient, not to say bright, sufficient compensation to overcome this memory. Okay. Second point, tenure meaning to say that freehold and leasehold. Okay, so freehold means Jasper will own the land forever. So Jasper got the right. He can choose not to sell me, but sell to others. So how to do that? Again, money lor. Money can do everything ma. So money can break down these things. So we can use sufficient money compensation to make Jasper sell, dispose the freehold land to me. But leasehold will be quite difficult. Is up to 99 years is actually belong back to the state government. So that will also affect the developer whether they can take that piece of land or not, because it's back to the government. Okay, so freehold, leasehold will affect the redevelopment process. Statutory right, as I told you just now, some piece of land belong to local authority, or some belong to Bhumiputra. It's not to say that every piece of land developer can get it. So it depends on the right, whether the local authority want to dispose to you or not. Now I ask you, if I'm the developer, I want that piece of land, but that piece of land belong to local authority. Then local authority say he does not want to sell. What should I do? Anyone or no, you or not? No or not? What should I do? If the local authority say, I don't want to sell that piece of land to you, what should I do leh? Don't say bright again, Raswa. It's not Raswa. What are the methods that I can convince the local authority? Negotiation, very good. Okay, negotiation, that will be means by JV, joint venture. This one we are going to talk later in funding chapter. You invite the landowner become your partner. Then landowner still remain as the local authority still remain as landowner, but it become your development partner. So as a developer, I still get that piece of land. Okay, so that is a method. Fragmentation of ownership, meaning to say that this one will be more applicable for a very big development, big piece of land. Okay, normally very big piece of land, it actually divided into A, B, C, D, belong to different landowner. Say for example, Jasper here, okay, Joey here, Pauline here, Charles here. For a very big piece of land, there is a chance the land actually belong to different landowner, different pattern. So that's why it makes the process, the negotiation process, redevelopment process become very, very tedious, because you need to approach different owner and you need to do negotiation to make sure the money sufficient enough to make them dispose the land. So that's why if this case, it will affect and also delay the redevelopment process. Okay. Last but not least, depreciation of property, meaning to say that if the building value, if we didn't maintain the building very well, the depreciation will be faster. Correct or not? If we didn't maintain your building, if we didn't maintain the building, the depreciation will happen very fast, which means the redevelopment will be faster. Okay, but on the other hand, if we maintain building very well, depreciation will fall and redevelopment process will be very slow. That is a relationship. Okay. So in reality, as I told you just now, your building value will fall over time as times go along. It depends whether you got maintained or not. But for sure, land value will not constant as I show you just now theoretically. In practically, land value will forever, not to say forever, as times go along, it will increase. Okay, So that is the relationship between building value and also land value. Okay. So last slide is this one. Every chapter I will have this slide which is called key takeaway, meaning to say that what are the message, what are the conclusion that you should know at the end of this chapter, what are the message you should take away after understanding, completing this chapter. The first message is, I think most of the time I keep mention, land is a very limited resources. So that's why developer need to make a choice in facing this limitation. They have to decide which piece of land they have to develop. So what are the incentive driving behind property developer? Which land can bring more profit? Then they will choose that piece of land and the project due to the fact that land is a scarce resources. Okay. Second key away you have to remember is property is very unique. Means there are no two same property. They can be different in terms of accessibility, visibility, location, height, shape, size, design. Okay, so conclusion is very unique. We have to take this into consideration later. Okay, number 3, land in different location will have different intensity. So meaning to say that you can see in city center, we tend to use the land more intensive. Suburban, we tend to use the land more extensive. Why? Why this one I don't want to say already lah. Later tutorial I will ask you again this question. Why in city center we use the land more intensive? Why in suburban we use the land more extensive? Okay, have a time to study. So later on tutorial, I hope you can answer me this question. Okay, location of land will influence the way in which it is used and its profit-making potential. So this one is what I mean just now, that not to say city center is always the best location for all business. It still depends on profit-making potential. Evaluation between revenue minus cost. Then the business will decide they should choose city center or they should choose suburban. It all depends on the land use and also the profit-making potential. So it's not necessary city center is always the best location for all business. Okay, so different businesses will demand land in different locations for different uses. So this is what I meant just now. Okay, retail, they will foresee that they make their business in city center, they can earn more profit to cover. So they will choose to locate their business in suburban, whereby factory, warehouse, industrial development, they will foresee that they need a bigger space, so they will surrender the city center, move away their business to suburban after evaluate the profit. Okay. Last but not least is the highest and best use of a piece of land is constantly changing. It does not mean if the land originally is agriculture, you have to plant, you have to do planting forever. As time goes along, maybe due to depreciation of building, maybe due to increase in site value due to the infrastructure improvement, we can foresee that the current land use have to change to a more profitable land use. That is what we meant by redevelopment. So total 6 key points that I hope you can get at the end of this chapter. Okay, so with that, we complete microeconomics. So now I'm going to discuss a bit your assignment. But first of all, let me check first. Let me check the student. Okay, so I have most of you already key in. Already key in. Okay. How many group I have? 27. Okay. Grouping 2. I still spot some student haven't got a group yet. Okay. First, Alex Tan Ming Yen, Cheng Yong Kang, Qing Yi Fan, and Lim Ye San, and Leong Hong Lam, and Wong Yat Tat. I think Wong Yat Yu got already. Okay. Last but not least, Yi Ga Yen. Okay. These few students do not have any group yet, so I hope you can approach some of the group. Like let's say which one? Let's say group 1. Group 1 still got one seat. Okay, perhaps any one of you can message Chan Chi Hong to ask permission whether you can join or not. You all don't simply key in the name here. Don't simply key in the name here without asking the permission. So I hope to those who do not have group yet, you can approach Chan Chi Hong or maybe Lin Jingjie to ask permission whether you all can join the group or not. Or you don't want, then you can form a new group also can, up to you. Here got 2 space, maybe 20 group 25 can have 2 more. Okay, so I create this Google Sheet is for you, to those who have difficulty to get group member, especially now OTL, you cannot meet your coursemate. So maybe you can ask Zhen Xing whether you can join or not. Okay, so please make sure you have a group, not more than 7 person. Okay, for your assignment is a group work, 40%. So I hope that you can pay more extra effort doing assignment. Okay, so you may work individually. Let's say you got one, you can work alone, up to you, or you can work in a group. If you choose to work in a group, it shall not be more than 7 person. Okay, your client need advice. The scenario, the question is, your client need advice on the viability of the development project for a plot of land marked with the red boxes in the following figure 1, which is located at Panda Mahkota Cheras. Okay, this trimester, I no longer use Sungai Long. Okay, I choose a piece of land at Panda Mahkota Cheras. So this is a space, this is a location that actually Utah uses for parking. Beside the I-resident condominium at Panda Mahkota Cheras. Okay, class, pay attention. If I read your report, I found out that that piece of land still at Sungai Long, you will fail your assignment. Again, reminder, I repeat one more time. If I read the report, I found out that you still use the Sungai Long, that piece of land, and the content you still talking about Sungai Long, you will fail your assignment. Okay, this is the new assignment question that I set for this trimester. Okay, this land located at Panda Mahkota Cheras, beside the I-resident condominium. So this is a land. Okay. So what are the tasks that I ask you to do? You are required to submit a proposal. What are the suitable type of development that you can propose any type, and you have to make an offer of the site value. So this one I will teach you later, don't worry. So generally, you have to determine the land value. What are the land value that you are going to offer to the landowner on behalf of your client? This one very important. The development control by the local authority is as below. Density control 100 units per acre. Plot ratio 1:3. If you propose residential, pure residential only, you use density control 100 units per acre. If you propose mixed use, okay, you use plot ratio 1:3. Use this one only. I don't want to see 1:5, 1:6, 80 units per acre or 40 units per acre. I don't want. This is the requirement of this assignment. You have to follow. If you choose to use density control, you use 100 units per acre. If you choose plot ratio, 1:3. Okay, I don't want to see 1 to 5 lah, 1 to 6 lah, 80 per acre and so on. I just want these two. Okay, some of the student mistake is they propose other things. So for this assignment, I hope you don't do that. Please make sure you use either one. I still see some assignment use both. Don't use both. Use both, you will fail assignment already. Use one of it. I repeat again. If you propose residential, density control. Mixed use, 1 to 3. Residential means here pure residential, no retail. Okay. If you propose mixed use residential, mixture or condominium and shop lot, you use plot ratio. Okay. Very important. This one, I don't want to fail you. So I hope you can take note my advice. Okay. You are free to make all other necessary assumptions, except this one, don't make your own assumption. Okay. The first page, the first content is your executive summary, not limit to 2 pages. We shall be include the following content. So in the executive summary, I hope you can mention what are the development, what are the land costs, GDV, number of unit, and so on. Tips for you. Tips are a table to summarize will be very good. But don't just give me one table only. Table plus elaboration will be very good for a good executive summary. Don't just give me one table. Okay. Other section recommended to be included report as follow. So this one is actually market research. Week 5 or week 6, I will going to teach you how to conduct the market research. So step 1 generally is to investigate how high you should build. The legal, physical, locational attribute. Okay, so at first step, you have to calculate how many unit, how high you need to build. Step 2 is consider what are the type of the building property that you think feasible. Identify the market user. Okay, step 3, forecast the demand. Step 4, analyze the supply. Okay, incoming, plan, and existing supply. Number 5 is comparison between step 3 and step 4 to estimate whether it's equilibrium or residue. Step 6 is actually to determine the market share. This one I will teach you how to calculate the market share, and also you have to spell out the uniqueness of the proposed development. Okay, what are the selling point of your property? Okay, and step 7 is the calculation part. You have to prepare development appraiser to determine the land cost, and you need to conduct a few suitable risk analysis method and do the discussion. Okay, so for this one also I will teach you, don't worry. For item 1 and 2, you shall the appraiser, the risk analysis, you have to use Excel, and you have to submit your Excel. Okay, then don't forget you need to have a conclusion, and last but not least, you can have reference to list out all the references. So what are my expectation is I expect a very professional level of report. So the assessment will be based on relevant and reasonable assumption that you make, coverage of the issue, neat, concise, and easy to understand presentation. I don't see quantity. You don't give me 200 page. Okay, I only see quality. I want to see how you want to concise the information. So you don't just dump everything into the report. Okay, just cut and paste, didn't do any discussion. You will score very low mark for your assignment. Okay, just remember, quality is important than quantity. Okay, at the end, you have to submit a soft copy. I need 2 format, MS Word and PDF. You can submit in a folder, zip folder. The zip folder also need to include the Excel, which I mentioned just now, the appraiser and also the risk analysis. Okay, so a soft copy, the report have to upload to Webeler. This is a deadline, August 13. Okay, Friday. So the file name should include the group number. So how are you going to know your group number is you refer to the Excel. So Chi Hong, you are group 1. Okay, Xingting group 2. So these are all your group number lah. So you have to follow your group number. So you can rename accordingly. Group 1 or Group 2 Property Development Assignment 2021-05 is the May trimester. Okay. The maximum of the report is 15,000. Exclude table of content, references, and appendix. So I'm looking forward a concise report with essential information. Meaning to say that don't give me too lengthy report. Because this trimester, I'm going to read 30 report. I will hope that a concise report, especially easy for me to verify your calculation and discussion. So please make sure don't write too long. Example of field report is too many things inside without necessary discussion. Merely you just dump inside without analyze or discussion. Don't give me too many theory. I don't want theory. Okay, remember, I don't want theory. You treat me as a client. Okay, you treat me as a client. You don't give me any theory. I want straight to the point. Okay, just say plot ratio 1 to 3. Don't discuss plot ratio is what is the purpose of plot ratio or the benefit of having plot ratio. I don't want theory. Straight to the point. Calculate the plot ratio, how many units you need to build, and so on. So cut down all the theory. And then don't tell me what is demand, what is supply, what happened, this one and that one. Okay, I want discussion, don't want theory. That's why don't give me too many theory. Okay, quantity is not important. More important is the quality, so that I can read your report more easily. Okay. So far, do you have any question want to ask me regarding your assignment? Any question you want to ask me your assignment? Item 1, 2, just Excel only, don't need to type. Okay. Very good question, Pauline. Okay. This one, item 1 and item 2, right? Okay. Determine the land price is, I know you need to produce Excel, correct or not? But then you still need to discuss in your report. Okay. You don't cut and paste the Excel in the report. Okay. You don't cut and paste the Excel in the report. You can summarize some of the key figure. You can tell me, tabulate in a table, land cost is what? How much? GDV, how much? Okay. Selling price, how much? Funding cost, how much? Then you can discuss to let your client know, based on the appraisal generated, the land cost is what. The selling price is what. You still need to discuss, but don't cut and paste the Excel into the report. You have to reproduce a table to summarize the figure and do some discussion. Okay, that will be a good report. Okay, you have to make sure I don't need to see the Excel. I also will understand what is the land price, what is the GDV, professional fee, and so on. Still need to discuss a bit, but not too long. Okay, similarly, the risk analysis, after you generated in Excel, you can reproduce in a table form in the report and do the discussion. Okay, any other question? I just want to remind you your assignment 40%. So please put some effort in the assignment so that you can secure some high mark, more mark for your assignment. Because generally the midterm will be quite difficult a bit as compared to assignment. All right. So yes, I will teach you. All these, right? You look very strange, is it? You never see before. Don't worry, I will teach you. Or I will teach you later, including the calculation, including the market research. I will teach in week 6 and week 7. So you should have sufficient time to do the assignment and submit. Okay? All right. So I hope the more important is the group member lah. Okay. If you do not have any question, then I will say I will stop at here lah. So thank you, class, and I will see you next week.